What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Turn the Jets podcast. I'm your host, Will Parkinson, at WillPod11 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all 32 pod, so on and so forth. Wanted to obviously talk a little bit about last night's game and just kind of, my observations and kind of build upon what Connor and Joe mentioned a bit earlier, and most of you have obviously watched by now, but a couple of different things I want to hit on. And one, going into the game, you wanted to see physicality, you wanted to see some kind of improvement on last week specifically. Obviously, last year and different things like that, you want to see improvement, but you want to see improvement upon, you know, a lot of the issues that kind of popped up during the scrimmage, some issues that have been seen throughout camp, whether it's inconsistency on offense, operation, penalties, just kind of sharpness to the team. And obviously, again, things like last year where it was tackling, it was, um, you know, inability to kind of maintain rush lanes, the offensive line to maintain blocks, all those different types of things, right? And again, it's just one preseason game, so you don't want to overreact too much. Um, but at the same time, I felt like we saw majority of the things you wanted to see last night. First of all, they kicked the Packers' ass, and that's that. And that's something that you're always going to want to always going to want to see from your team, preseason or not. A win's a win. Again, I think there's little checklist marks for Aaron Glenn, whether it was first the press conference, how he'd handle Aaron Rodgers, how he would handle the offseason, how they would handle OTAs and minicamp, attendance look like, what was the intensity like, what would training camp look like, there be tackling, would there not be, would things back up a lot of the messaging he's kind of mentioned. So all that's kind of been checked off one by one by one, little steps. I thought today was a big challenge. I thought the first scrimmage was a bit of a step back. I thought, yeah, the defense played well, and yeah, Glenn probably had them call a quicker whistle to make sure these guys are, kind of appreciating what that's got to be done when in terms of penalties and things like that. All those things could be fair, but at the same time, you want to see improvement, and you saw it last night. And they played hard, they played physical. I could not be happier with the way that the starters performed. I thought that was awesome. On both sides of the ball. I think to go back to back from defense, a penalty on the first play, which that's got to get cleaned up. See, that's one that's not excusable. I'll get into a couple of the other ones, but that's an inexcusable penalty. J.T. Fairley was amazing yesterday. You can't have that a hard count first play of the game. Like, what are we doing here, bud? But 1st and 5, Sauce Gardner pass breakup, really awesome play. Sauce Gardner tackle. Not only, again, you're going to say, oh, he's an all-pro corner, highest paid, he should be tackling. Yeah, he should. Here's the thing, though. Sauce is a guy who did not tackle well last year, and has not necessarily been a great tackler his whole career, but not last year specifically was bad. And he put on a lot of muscle, and the whole thing gets paid. He could have olayed that tackle or kind of given a half-assed effort. He didn't, and then a pass breakup on 3rd down. You turn over to the Jets, and right, Brees Hall behind AVT and Membu, Brees Hall again. You get the field check down to Andrew Beck. The pocket was clean, or Tyler Johnson. I apologize, and then Andrew Beck a couple of times. Braylon Allen, monster run, obviously. He's out here concussing guys in week 1 of the preseason. And then Fields, obviously, with the touchdown run, I thought the game plan was sharp. I thought the opening script to get Fields in advantageous situations, whereas, a lot of heavy personnel, 2-man route concepts, a third kind of checking out, last minute, whether it was back or in the future, it'd probably be a Mason Taylor, so on and so forth. Membu, I thought, looked good. I thought the O-line in general was pretty good. I thought Myers was probably the weakest link on the offensive line, but kind of to be expected because John Simpson's out, and obviously Tippmann would kick back to center. I just thought Fields did a good job of 1, 2, get to my check down or run. Did that multiple times. That's what you want to see from him. Limit any mistakes, but don't put the Jets in bad situations. And then, obviously caps off with his athleticism. That's something the Jets are going to lean on heavily, obviously, this year. In terms of other things that stood out non-starter wise, and kind of everyone saw the starters. There's no need to kind of go into that. I thought, again, Michael Clemens' stupid penalty can't be happening. It can't be happening in the first 10 minutes of a football game. I understand first time you're hitting another color and the whole thing, Mr. Tough Guy, that's great, man. And there's a place for that, but this wasn't a place for it. And Glenn was pissed. He took him out. And I thought that was something that, to me, that's the stark difference, right? It's Saleh talked a big game. And I thought, in previous regimes, they've talked a big game. All that's fine. The difference here is Aaron Glenn talked a big game. Penalties have to be cut out. And when they're not, there's consequences. You get benched, right? Michael Clemens was pulled. McCreary ball later in the game, pulled. Watt, pulled. Arian Smith goes offsides, pulled. Like, these things, the only way they get cleaned up is not just by saying it. You have to drill it, obviously, and continue to teach it and teach it and teach it. But it's also, there needs to be consequences. There needs to be a reason to not do that. And again, you can take the aggressive penalty over the over the pre-snap, operation stuff where it's false starts and going off sides, like that stuff can't happen. But just in general, I thought it started off rough with the penalties, and then it cleaned up for a while, and then the Jets had one or two dumb ones at the end. But um, special teams operation looked good. Kenne's got to be the returner. He got some reps at running back. I know he had the calf, but shout out to Isaiah Davis. I thought he did a really nice job in terms of, just his role. I've said this so many times this summer, but he's a guy who, when he needs 3 to 4 yards, he gets 3 to 4 yards. Is he as big a back as Braylon Allen or Brees Hall? No. But the difference to me is he sees the hole and just goes. There's no pitter patter. There's no waiting. It's like one cut and go. And falls forward, always kind of figures it out. So I thought that was nice from Davis. Donovan Edwards obviously looked really good. Brandon Smith, some of the guys that have been kind of the darlings of summer, had really nice days. Overall, Stone Smart, obviously Stone Smart did a good job there, and the Jets would really be advantageous to use someone with that skill set, right? Because listen, like the tight end room without Mason Taylor is not particularly awesome, and the Jets don't need some help at receiver. So again, guys like Pritchard and Skinner and Brandon Smith at the bottom of the roster, and then guys like Stone Smart who kind of fill in that hybrid. He's lined up outside, lined up inside. It's the design of that play and the creativity and the idea of a well-run screenplay. This is with the twos and the threes, and they're still seeing execution. Things kind of look the same from first team, the second team, the third team. Glenn talked about that. The offensive line, the defense. Again, you don't want to make too much of a preseason game, right? It's one or two series from the starters, two on defense, one on offense. It's um, you know, a lot of Adrian Martinez, a lot of Brady Cook. Same for the Packers. It's a lot of Malik Willis and Sean Clifford, right? But there's the physicality. It was the overall preparedness to play. It was the adjustments. It was Engstrom being on the sideline. That was something I was curious about. Was he going to call plays from the sideline or the booth? And again, it's preseason, but he went sideline. It was, how would Glenn be on game day? Would he still be the same guy he was in Detroit, or would he be someone different? Solid change, right? Solid was Mr. kind of amped up, pumped up, juiced up creatine guy, and then got with the Jets, and we saw it once in a while, but it was a lot of that stoic look. And I'm not saying that means that much, but you felt like, again, Glenn was a guy who fired up last night, chewing guys out. When Tufele scores the touchdown after the Leonard Taylor sack, which is quite funny. Just that Leonard Taylor is a guy who been to practice 2 or 3 times this summer, and I haven't seen Leonard Taylor a single time in terms of making plays. Lights come on and instantly, amazing strip sack. Obviously, just falling a fumble. He fell on multiple fumbles last night. So again, overall, Quantez Stigger stood out. On special teams, he obviously had a nice night on defense as well. I thought Malachi Moore, kind of got his first couple of reps. So that was nice to see. In totality, one game. Joan Connor talked about it. I'll have a much we'll talk some film and be able to dive into that a little bit midweek. And I'll do probably a post Giants and Jets joint practice pod, but also just talk a little bit about roster projections, things like that. I don't think too much changed. A few things. Lazard with the shoulder seemed like the only one that was kind of medical, needed to go get some scans. Davis, Kenne, JBC, guys like that, will be fine. We'll eventually get guys like Simpson, Quinnen, Mason Taylor, Azari Thomas back. But overall, a really awesome night. Glenn gets his first win. It's a preseason game. You don't make too much of it. But again, I think we'd all feel much different if last night was a disaster. So, everybody enjoy their weekend, buy your live show tickets, and we'll talk to you guys soon.